Alright, let's go to the results. And oh boy, they do not look pretty. Yeah, one great, one good, one meh, seven bad, and five terribles. This was obviously a bad show. But let's look at this mathematically. Dividing great and good from meh, bad, and terrible, there are 2 episodes I found good, and 13 episodes I find okay, bad, or terrible. And if we multiply the amount of episodes in each category by the number of episodes from the show, then add them all together, we would get a total of 225. Then divide that by the number of episodes in the show, which is 15, and we get exactly 15 points out of 100. And if we were to divide that by 10, we would get 1.5, perfectly fitting the show into the terrible rating. And just for further clarification, here is the pie chart I made. Great, good, and meh just come below 7%. Bad is just under 47%, and terrible just makes it above 33%. Okay, now let's get into the top 5 worst Lab Rats Elite Force episodes. Now, please remember, this is all to my opinion, and you could say what you think the worst episode of Lab Rats Elite Force was. So without further ado, let's get started with the number 5 worst episode with Lab Rats Elite Force, entitled Power Play. Now, this episode isn't completely god-awful, but it's still a really bad episode, because the A-plot is boring and shows Chase, Skylar, and Oliver being the biggest assholes ever. And the B-plot is just kind of forgettable. I mean, come on, you landed on a pig? A much more enjoyable and interesting story was if Rumor and Riker were disguised as the lady and the pig. But nope, this show and all those sitcoms have to have the most exaggerated crap. Anyway, let's move on to the 4th worst Lab Rats Elite Force episode, entitled Need for Speed. This episode, and pretty much every episode from this series, screams Flanderization. Now, Bree in Lab Rats Elite Force, or rather, the original Lab Rats, was a little bit of a bratty child, but she usually has a legitimate reason to be a brat. Like in 3 Minus Bree, where that worked because she felt like she should be able to do her own things. But this, she's just acting like a brat because she just wants to be a brat. I just hate how she was turned from a very funny and very relatable teen girl character to just the loudmouth, hypocritical, just the bitchy teen stereotype. This episode is low on the list because it at least, picks up a little bit with the race. It's okay. It's nothing, enjoyable. I wish I had, those slow-mo cameras. But whatever. But now we're going to get into the episodes I absolutely despise and find some of the worst pieces of media I've ever watched. Starting with number 3 worst, Follow the Leader. Wow, Chase, you managed to turn into Bree. While Chase was a little annoying in Power Play and holding out for a hero, which I also consider for this list, here he's at his absolute worst. Not just in this series, but in the entirety of Lab Rats. Since Skylar had to be a substitute leader, and since everyone acts like a jackass to Chase and just accepts Skylar as their new leader now, Chase intentionally locks Skylar and Perry into the mission command nervous system and goes off on a mission with the other team. Look, guys, just because you made Chase unlikable doesn't bring back sympathy to the other main characters. That doesn't make me hate everyone. Look, I know you all want Chase to become leader again, but you gotta make sure the audience is still on Chase's side. We have to understand as the audience why he does what he does. And we still want Chase to win in the end. I don't want Chase to win in the end. He just traps Skylar and Perry into what seems like an inescapable area. I mean, there's the tunnels, but still, if those tunnels weren't there, Skylar and Perry would be screwed. They'd have nowhere to go. And it's all Chase's fault. Here's how you fix this story. Make it so that Skylar wants to suddenly decides to be leader because she thinks Chase isn't running the team correctly. Then Chase tells her, oh, if you think you can run this team better than me, then why don't you just go ahead and try for the day? And then Skylar learns it's not so easy to be a leader. It could teach a valuable lesson about seeing things some other person's way and not just assuming they have the sweet life. That way, I actually want Chase to win in the end. I want Skylar to learn a lesson. But no. It has to be some dragged out stuff. It has to be some exaggerated stuff. Ugh! Oh, what Chase says at the end of the episode, well, near the episode, end of the episode, rather, is just infuriating. He says, without being mission leader, he feels like nothing. Oh, you're scrawny little smartass. Better be lucky you're on the team in the first place. And don't treat you like yesterday's garbage. Anyway, let's move on to the second worst episode of the series, entitled The Superhero Code. This episode is just awful. Once again, everyone is flanderized to all belief, and Kaz is just awful. Kaz is probably the worst character in the episode. He tells him not to go in any forbidden areas, and yet he does so anyway, and almost kills his younger brother. This isn't me just reinterpreting things, or just misunderstanding things. No, he literally almost kills him. An electric fence goes off and he's trapped in a cage. Oh, and the reason why Kaz can't tell his younger brother that he has powers is absolutely stupid, especially if you're fresh off Lab Rats. I really don't remember what Skylar said because of how forgettable and slow it all is, but Bree and Chase got exposed for being bionic heroes, and they're treated like the number one thing on Earth. Bionic heroes and superheroes are not that different. Why can't Kaz tell his younger brother that he has superpowers? There's no logic to anything in this series. You know what? I'm just so sick of talking about this series at this point. So let's just get on to the worst episode, in my opinion, of Lab Rats Elite Force, which really shouldn't come as a surprise to no one. Well, maybe a few, but you know what I mean. The worst episode of Lab Rats Elite Force, in my opinion, is The Rock. Boy, this episode is just abysmal. Every single second of this episode I hate. The plot is so unfocused and stupid. All of the characters act like immature morons. And the ending is so goddamn stupid! Why does Bree get powers? Someone, somewhere, tell me why I want this character to get powers when she already has bionic powers. Especially since in every single episode of this series, she's been an uncaring, hypocritical bitch. Why would I want to see this character get powers? Tell me, why? But you know what? None of those reasons got this episode to number one. No. It's one line. One line in this episode put this episode straight onto number one. Because I don't even know. I can't even say words to begin just to describe how lazy this is. Bree says that when Skylar came on the team and had speed, she felt useless. Yup, you didn't hear me wrong. She said she felt useless because Skylar came on the team and had super speeding powers too. Okay, Bree, okay. Let me follow your logic. Actually, no, there is no logic to what you just said. Let me ask you this question, Bree. When, in any other episode of this series, or in the original Lab Rats, did your big mouth bitch ass get told that you are useless? When? You are 100% needed. Hell, in the original, there was a little mini story arc where Bree broke her chip and everyone called her out because she wasn't on the team. And let me remind you, this show and the original Lab Rats is a story-driven show, meaning that this show follows continuity. So forgetting details like that is unforgivable. Secondly, you're pretty much saying that because of Skylar, you feel like you're less important because she's just on the team. And here's where it gets dumber. Not a single person, except maybe Skylar, says, "Oh, Bree, you're not useless. We need you every single day. You literally broke your chip once, and then there was a fire that you could have put out in like 2 seconds." No one says that. Nobody says that. Especially Chase. No one says anything. This took 2 writers, guys. 2 writers. 2 people got their college degrees to write this sorry excuse for a series. This episode and all these other episodes shows me how risky it can be for having people writing a show that clearly do not know how to write your characters. They already ruined Chase's cool and funny, smart remarks, and they ruined Bree's relatability. This is not people caring. This is people just throwing shit to kids and saying, "Oh, there you go. There's a new episode." I'm so sick of talking about The Rock. So let's move on to one of the episodes that was a contender for the list, but just barely didn't make it. And that episode is The Attack. Now, the reason I left this off the list is because I kind of already bashed this episode enough when I was talking about how terrible this show is compared to its original. Make no mistake, this is still a terrible episode, but I left it off so I can just give it a break. Anyway, thanks you guys for sticking it out with me through the end of this video. I love you, you beautiful series, and screw you, you terrible series. And I hope to see you here next time when we review Landon's Total Drama Mario Season 2, which was definitely long overdue. See you guys then.